Space, the final frontier. Join us for a bold conversation. Our prime directive? To recap our favorite Star Trek shows, both new and old. To engage in debate about all things Trek. Prepare to energize with phasers set to stun.
Hello, listeners, and thank you for joining us for Phasers Set to Stun. We've seen so much love from you for Star Trek from our limited series, but there's always more to explore. So this ongoing series from a film by podcast focuses on every quadrant of the ever-expanding universe of Trek by covering television, animation, movies, directors, and more. Plotting the course, as always, is your core Trek crew. I'm Scott Hoffman.
I'm David Burns.
And I'm Wayne Whited.
All right. Thank you so much, guys, for coming back to this and getting into bigger Trek. I don't know how we're going to limit this to our typical hour because there's so much to say, but I just kind of wanted to ask round robin. Wayne, as our resident expert on Trek history, what are you looking forward to with Phasers Set to Stun?
Well, there's so much of Star Trek. I mean, we've got coming up to 60 years of the show. I'm just looking forward to reviewing and maybe even reevaluating some of the past episodes of the different Star Trek series, sharing my opinions, delving into the background info, maybe just discussing the various areas of the franchise with you and with the viewers.
Cool. Dave, what about you?
Pretty similar to what Wayne mentioned. Just like a film buy when we're doing all the other podcasts, I get to revisit films and stuff like that I haven't seen in many, many years. Mm-hmm. So the fact that this is giving me an excuse to go back and revisit all this Star Trek again that I have loved so much just excites me, and the fact that I get to talk about it with you guys and the listeners just excites me to no end.
I'm excited to get started, especially because since this first episode helps bring some new interest into the Trek universe. Mm-hmm. We all have a friend, like our executive producer Jeff, who's interested in Trek but doesn't know where to start. So one of the things we'll be doing on Phasers is something we like to call Starter Treks, a curated episode list for first-time viewers. So Jeff has gotten hooked on modern series like Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks, but never got into the classic series. So this spoiler-free list focuses on the top 10 episodes from each season for people like Jeff as a great place to start. With Starter Decks, we simplify the menu with choice cuts of prime Trek that gives people a taste of each season. After listening to this episode, you can find the course we're plotting for you with our list in the description below. So Dave, what series and season are we covering today?
Well, I've got this big smile on my face because, we talked about how we were going to start Phasers Set to Stun. And we are going to be diving into the series that I know you two grew up with, and me. And that, of course, is Star Trek The Next Generation. We're going to be discussing Season 1 today. It's a series that really holds a special place in my heart. And I'm sure it does for you two as well, because, I know older people than us grew up with the OG. We grew up with the Next Generation crew. And, that kind of leads into, to talk a little bit about the series in a whole. This series had to break new ground for people because everyone knew Kirk, Spock, Chekhov, Sulu, McCoy. They're giving us a whole new crew, a whole new ship. So that's bold in itself, right? They were taking a risk here, and you can see that they didn't want to spend a ton of money because they didn't know how it was going to be received. Because let's be honest, guys. I mean, if we grew up with the original crew, like a lot of people did at that time, you're being told that you got to accept a new crew. Would you be willing to do that when you're so used to Kirk and all of them? So they took a big risk here. And you see that in Season 1 a little bit because, let's admit it, Season 1's not perfect, okay? It is not perfect. So, they're just feeling the way like most seasons do. That first season's rough. They got to find their way. I mean, even some of the actors felt like, this is going to be a one and done and we're out of here,
Mm-hmm.
But it turned a corner. And today, Star Trek The Next Generation crew is like the original crew now. We all love them, adore them. And when we see them at conventions like we did recently, we race to them to talk to them and get their autographs. Yep. So it really made its way into our hearts is basically what I wanted to say.
I remember the first time I was aware of The Next Generation was when the video cassette of Star Trek 4 came out. It had the very first promo for the series, and that was the first time it was ever released. Very raw, no visual effects, sound effects, music was weird in it. And I'm like, well, I'll check it out. And when the show came, I loved it. I thought it was great, but then I didn't have that connection to the original series like a lot of people did. So there was no animosity against the new crew. I fell in love with them right away. And the first season, I may not like some of the episodes that a lot of people do like. I may love some of them that people hate, but it's a show that I was attracted to right away from the beginning.
Yeah. Yep. Scott, what about you, man?
Yeah, so for me, it was my first committed foray into Star Trek. So the only taste that I had had before that was really Star Trek Wrath of Khan, Star Trek 2. And it never really got me into the original series. It's just something that I enjoyed and I kind of watched over and over again. I hadn't really gotten into the subsequent movies, but it was really kind of a community thing with my brother and my sister. We watched it together when it first came out, and we were there in front of the TV every single night to watch the latest episode, and we got hooked pretty quickly. It was a lot of fun to discover it for the first time, and kind of establish a relationship with the crew that we followed all the way through the end. And I'll still jump on the phone with my siblings and talk about, if you haven't watched this latest one, you've got to watch it because it goes back to what we loved. So
it became a series that you didn't miss an episode.
Right.
You were there. I mean, I did anything possible to get home and to watch those episodes. Heck, I even wrecked my car on the way trying to rush home to get to watch one of the episodes. Fortunately, it happened to have been one of the worst episodes of the series, in my opinion. But that's a different thing. I didn't know at the time. But it became must-see television for us, especially for sci-fi fans.
This is it in the day when the water cooler shows.
Yes.
Where you watched it from fall to spring, and then it would take a break over the summer. So the whole summer you're spending talking to your friends. Oh my God, what do you think they're going to do? And that kind of thing. And, we're going to get into one of the hugest cliffhangers later on in this, not today in this podcast, but in season 3, I think it is.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about one of the biggest cliffhangers. And, it's that there's like, man, you had to wait all summer to get the closure of that. So I miss those kind of shows. We're living in a day where we got streaming and you get all of it almost all at the same time. Sometimes you don't. Some streaming services are going back to that one episode per week kind of thing, which I like. I know a lot of people don't.
Yeah, same here.
But it just builds that energy. It builds that, excitement for it. I miss those days, and Star Trek did that so well, guys. It did.
Yeah. Well, it and that kind of release approach makes it so that in between you have a lot of chances to have a lot of great conversations with friends about speculation, what's going to happen, but you also have all this build up in your mind. I bet it's going to go here. I bet it's going to go here. And it's so much more satisfying when you see that in the next episode release, but it gives you that time to kind of savor it a bit.
Yeah.
And they use that to great effect in this series. There's a lot that are standalone episodic, and it never comes back to what's going on. So very good standalones. But then also the through threads of the characters are very well done. Unfortunately, some got more of a chance to explore that than others, but we'll get into that, especially with this season.
So when you're watching season 1, you're going to see a lot of lower budget stuff. The special effects are still good, don't get me wrong, but you can tell that they didn't have the biggest budget that they needed. So I implore everybody, do not hold that against the show at all.
And that was a problem too at the time, because it looks low budget, but you got to keep in mind at the time that it was made, it's actually one of the most expensive series on television. They were spending over $1 million, which today that's like cheap, if anyone spent $1 million, but back then that was incredible. But there was no CGI, there was no easy way of doing the visual effects, so they were really struggling to get this stuff out.
And if you notice too, like even the uniforms a little bit rough. They don't fit some of these actors very well. If you notice that, it's almost like they were in a rush at times to get some of this stuff done. When we were watching some of these episodes, I'm like, that uniform doesn't look too good on him. On some of them, some of them do. Don't get me wrong. And as we talk about it, the first season is going to be rough on a lot of shows. And as this show progresses, it gets fantastic with everything.
this first season has some serious teething problems. It at times can be hard to get through, but there are some really good stuff, and you can't skip it. I mean, if you have to look at it as a whole, you have to start at the beginning to appreciate the end of the series. In my opinion.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yep.
Well said, Wayne.
All right. Well, we got a lot to discuss. Only 10 episodes. Wayne, start us off with the first of our favorite picks. Tell us the title and what it's all about.
Well, for the first, we have to go with the first, and that would be Encounter at Farpoint. While en route to their first assignment, the newly commissioned USS Enterprise is interrupted by the omnipotent being known only as Q. Captain Picard and his new crew are put on trial for the crimes of humanity, and the outcome depends on them solving the mystery of Farpoint Station and its builders. The episode was written by DC Fontana and Gene Roddenberry, obviously two people who were from the original series, directed by Corey Allen, and it originally aired on September 26, 1987, the premiere of the series. It is a 2-hour episode, the only 2-hour episodes from the first season. Obviously, they were it's sometimes when you watch it on television, it's broken up in 2 pieces, but it aired as a pilot. There are some great things about this episode. I don't want to give too much away on it, but you'll see some great appearances, including DeForest Kelley, who makes a very brief appearance just as a favor to Gene Roddenberry. Kind of soothe the worries of the original series. But another character I want everybody to pay attention in this is someone else who appears in it without a name. Cole Meany first appears in this episode. He doesn't have a name in this series. He doesn't get a name until the second season, but that's Miles O'Brien, who becomes one of the main cast and characters later on in the show, and of course in Deep Space Nine. And another thing I'd like to point out on this, which I absolutely love this, the visual effects for this episode were done by Industrial Light and Magic. When Roddenberry came to them to do the models, he says, hey, we'll do your visual effects. And that actually was the most beneficial thing for this show, because they did such a huge catalog of visual effects for this episode. Just simple shots like the Enterprise flying by or orbiting a planet, that those effects were able to be reused throughout the entire series, keeping costs down and allowing them to make these great episodes throughout the 7 years.
If my understanding is, didn't they try to get Leonard Nimoy at first?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah,
he wasn't interested.
Yeah, so that's when they went with the DeForest Kelley. I do like that they did that, kind of to bridge the original crew with the new crew, to show that we're in the same galaxy, world of Star Trek. So I do appreciate they did that, and I see why they did it. So it makes sense.
It's a simple scene, and it's a beautiful scene. It's
it
nice.
Is. Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
and Bones is that kind of character where it's almost like one of the most human characters, like from present day, right? Because he's like, wait a second. He talks to Data about, wait a second, now you're an android?
Yeah.
And, kind of that new kind of perspective that he adds to it. So I think he was the right character in there, and I'm glad we got an appearance by DeForest Kelley there.
And it set a trend that for every new Star Trek series that came out up till the end of Enterprise, someone from the previous series appeared in the pilot episode.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's true.
I didn't think about that, but you're right. Very interesting. I find it also interesting that this is the episode, well, it starts off with the whole Star Trek Next Generation, but is also where we get the catchphrases from Picard, come, make it so.
Yes.
Which is used quite a lot throughout the series.
Yep.
Yes, and there's a lot of missteps too in this episode. You could really see a lot of teething problems where they're really trying to get things right. Troy's outfits, that makes me laugh every time I see it. She looks like a teenage cheerleader in this very skimpy skirt and puffed out hair. Extreme 80s right there.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
One of my favorite guest stars on this episode is a voice that you'll recognize if you're a fan of Transformers or G.I. Joe. The voice of Duke, Zaymot, and Major Blood, Michael Bell, plays a major role in this. And that man has a mile-long list of voice acting credits. And to see him live action here, I think give a really, really great performance is very refreshing. So Jeff in particular, come watch Duke in a different kind of role.
I think they even had to create Q as a second storyline, wasn't it? Because this was originally done as like a 1 hour, but then Paramount wanted was it a 2 hour pilot?
That's right.
So they had to come up with another storyline. So that's how they put Q into this two-part episode. So I found that interesting. So.
And that's why there's 2 writers. I believe the Farpoint storyline was by DC Fontana, and then Roddenberry went and rewrote the script and added all the Q to expand it to the 2 hours.
Yeah. Yep. And for those who know Star Trek, you're going to see Q quite a bit. So
we'll get
to that in a minute.
Get used to it. Get used to it.
John Delancey. All right. Well, with that, Dave, take us to the next episode. What's our number 2 pick?
So we have the episode called The Battle. In this episode, the Enterprise meets up with a Ferengi ship, where we meet Damon Bach, who wants a meeting with Captain Picard. It seems the Ferengi has a gift for him, which turns out to be the Stargazer. Picard served on in the same ship he did the legendary move known as the Picard maneuver. All isn't what seems, as the Ferengi have something up their sleeve, as they often do. And they even have a bigger surprise waiting for Picard that we discover Bach is holding for him. What I find interesting about this episode is the Picard maneuver, for one, because for those fans who know Star Trek very well, Patrick Stewart constantly would pull down his top because it kept pulling up on him. Yep. So the cast secretly started calling that the Picard maneuver. Patrick Stewart did it so much that it became a commonplace that he started doing it on purpose. Because we expected it to happen. So the Picard maneuver has 2 meanings in the series. One for actually in the show, and one for behind the scenes for the fans and stuff like that. So I found that quite humorous for sure. Yeah. This episode was directed by Rob Bowman, which I did not know, because Rob Bowman did a lot of X-Files. And Wayne, you know what a huge X-Files fan I am.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I didn't realize he directed episodes of Star Trek until I started digging into these. I was like, holy crap, this is Rob Bowman.
Yeah.
But I thought this is a really good episode, guys. What do you think?
I agree. I agree. And this is the Ferengi's second appearance on the show, and they were supposed to be the big baddies to take over from Klingons. And that first appearance is it's just horrible. They don't work at all in the first appearance. But here in this episode, it seems like that they realized that right away and changed it. They still aren't the Ferengi that we're familiar with from Deep Space Nine, but right. They're getting there. They've been improved. They're more scheming. They're more they're more normal because they're just really feral in the first episode. I like the performances of the Ferengis and the actors that played them too.
Yeah.
Yep.
I know this is the episode that I think Will Wheaton said that fans turned on him. Will Wheaton said, because they gave him such clunky dialogue and a very absurd dialogue in this, that he says this is the episode that a lot of the fans turned on his character here.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Right.
And you've got to give some respect to Will Wheaton for that, because I think his character goes to great places, but especially in this first season, the sweaters.
Oh gosh,
yeah. The sweaters and the dialogue, and
poor Will.
He's got some. That's a big hill to go ice skating up, right?
It is.
And just the fact that I think Wesley and Data had so many scenes where people were like dismissing them or saying like, "Ugh, you're talking too much," and all this other kind of stuff. And I'm like, I'm really glad they didn't continue with that with the characters, because it just seemed so demeaning.
It did.
And so I'm glad it went to a better place, and I'm glad they went to a better place with the Ferengi as well. Like I mentioned, that first appearance really does feel like a Playmates, a Galoob kind of. Who had the license for the toys? Wasn't it Playmates?
That was Galoob at the time.
Yeah. It felt like a toy commercial.
Yeah,
right? Like, oh no, it's the Ferengi, and they've got their whips. Watch out, crew! It's okay, I've got Riker. Like, yeah. This one very much felt like they were starting to round them out a little bit more, and you got some history on Picard on the Stargazer, so everybody got a little bit more depth in this one, which is a welcome change.
Yeah, we're starting to see some of that character development here. We didn't get too much of that in Counter Farpoint, so we're starting to see a lot of that getting developed, which I like. We need to know our characters and where they're coming from so that we can care about them.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the next one on the list is Hide and Q. And as you mentioned, Q comes up a lot. He's a
Yeah.
very important character to this series. And this is definitely the one where he starts to become more of the Q that we're used to. So, in this one, the Enterprise crew is forced to play a deadly game when Q returns with a tempting offer for Riker to trade his humanity for unlimited power as part of the Q continuum. Now, there's a little bit of a spoiler in there, but it's an interesting premise to think about. You know, they've seen what Q can do. They see a lot more of that here. So to offer that up, they do that in very interesting ways. I think they play it out in some morality decisions that they have to make. And we also see more of the playful side of Q. In the first episodes, he was so menacing, and it was all about kind of orchestrating this trial kind of idea. But this is, you know, using the powers to play the games, a lot of costume changes. He impersonates one of the characters in kind of an interesting way. It's interesting. A few things I didn't know about this is that Troy does not appear in the episode very much.
Yeah,
And she thought at the time that she was going to be cut from the show, which is got to be a horrible.
It's understandable.
thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's, I guess, having to know that with such a big cast, if everybody's going to get equal time, it's going to be very difficult to do that kind of a show. But that had to be kind of unsettling for her.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that's not the direction they took. I think she's one of the best characters that they have. And credit to John Delancey for what he did with Q. I saw that the director of this episode was studying the first episode intensely to try to make sure that he was getting Q right. And John just slipped right back in and took it to great new places. So this is the Q that you'll be seeing a lot more. There's a lot more fun that happens with Q. So it's definitely the kind of episode you want to buckle up for.
And this is the first appearance of LeVar Burton without his visor.
Yeah.
So
No, you're right.
yeah,
And that's used to great effect in this one.
it is.
And it's tough to talk about these things without talking about spoilers.
I know it is.
You want to make sure that you're giving somebody enough to know, you know, what they're in for, but there's so much to say about how it resolves. So Jeff, definitely let us know.
This is another example too. It's a good episode. This is probably one of the few that worked where they're really trying to copy some of the feel and look of the original series. It's very much a Trelane type of episode, and even in so much as the sets, that planet set is so fake with its gel background and its sand ground, but it looks just like something out of the 60s. They didn't do that again, fortunately, but it's just so incredibly fake. But then Q created it, so you know, who's to say that that's not the way it's supposed to look like?
He did it on purpose, probably. You know,
Well, to that effect, I know that the original series, we're talking like 60s special effects. There is a bit of, you know, there's almost that original series aesthetic to some of the special effects, like in this episode. So it almost seems like there's a bit of an accidental bridging effect there. But yeah, it also kind of takes you out when you're used to the Star Trek today, and you're like, really? Just a flood of green? That's the sky? Just green. Okay. Sure.
It's a pretty green.
Right, exactly. Well, let's take a quick break, and we'll get back to finishing our list.
Hey, check it out. There's a brand new podcast on the way exploring the discographies of the Beatles and the Beach Boys.
It's called Apples and Oranges, and it launches on February 7th.
We will be matching albums against each other in a 1v1 format, discussing every single track and then giving our verdict on which album is better.
Pet Sounds versus Revolver. Sgt. Pepper versus Smile.
Wouldn't it be nice if most people knew how well the Beach Boys actually held up against the Fab Four?
Both bands inspired each other to keep pushing the boundaries of what was possible in pop music, here, there, and everywhere.
And what we got were some of the greatest albums of all time.
All Summer Long versus A Hard Day's Night. Rubber Soul versus the Beach Boys Today.
So let's come together for some fun, and help me, Rhonda, get this podcast off the ground. And we'll sure appreciate you being around on February 7th, wherever you find your podcast.
That's Apples and Oranges, February 7th.
We're back, and we're going to talk to Wayne about the next episode, Haven.
Okay, this is one of my favorites from the first season. This is Haven. The Enterprise visits the planet Haven, where Counselor Deanna Troi is visited by her mother Luoxana and is reminded of her commitment to an arranged marriage to a human doctor named Wyatt. While plans for the wedding is being made, the Enterprise must deal with the appearance of a plague ship on a heading for the planet. This was written by Tracy Torme and Lan O'Kun, directed by Richard Compton. I love this episode for many reasons, and the biggest one being this is the first appearance of Majel Barrett as Luoxana Troi. She
amazing,
Yeah.
Oh yes, immediately from the get go, becomes an incredible character that's fun to watch, very outbearing, and the way her and Patrick Stewart work together, and it's just. It's fun to watch every minute of it.
So
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it's a perfect casting for her. We also see another first appearance too. The Betazoid gift box is the head. It's played by Armin Shimmerman, who went on to play Quark on Deep Space Nine. This is his first Star Trek appearance.
Yep.
And this is something I just learned too. The director, Richard Compton, he actually used to be an actor, and he appeared on the original series as Lieutenant Washburn in the episode Doomsday Machine. I've got to go back and watch that because I had no idea about this. But another thing too I want to bring out is the music for this episode is probably some of the best from the first season. It was done by Dennis McCarthy. He did the pilot. And this was very early in his career. Wonderful score, very beautiful and subtle, but with some great themes. And because of that, he was certain he was going to get fired. One of the producers of the show, Rick Berman, did not like music on the show, and if it was up to him, he would have every episode without any music. And because of the themes and because it stood out in many of the scenes, he was afraid he was going to get fired. And that, I'll bring this up later on, maybe when we get around to talking to season 3 or 4, because it got worse and worse as the years go by. But I completely disagree against Berman. The music is fantastic and does everything to enhance the episode.
Well, if Rick Berman ever hears this, I'm sorry, Mr. Berman, but you are wrong. Music is everything when it comes to TV, movies, whatever it is. Without it, it's not going to be good at all. I'm sorry.
Yep. And there's an amazing use of a musical instrument in this episode, a little gong that's played. An amazing time.
She storms out and just knocks it over. I love that.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know Star Trek too, Majel Barrett is the voice of the computer for Enterprise.
And the original number one.
And the original number one. That's right.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a great.
And Nurse Chapel. Don't forget that.
Exactly.
That's true.
Exactly.
Dang.
So I mean, it's one of those things where I didn't have that experience with Majel Barrett before Luoxana Troi. So going back and watching things like The Cage and watching some original series episodes, it's like, wow, she's really been with this through the whole thing.
Yep.
If you were listening to Lower Decks this past season, watching those episodes, like you said, the gift box. Tonally, I think a lot of things that carry through into Lower Decks, you first start to see here.
Yes,
I'd
right.
say it's an interesting balance of comedy and drama because it's kind of both types of episodes are running in parallel in this one, or both types of stories.
Yep.
But it never feels like, ugh, can we get done with the comedy and get back to the drama? It's used to great effect. I think it broadens the Betazoid aspect of Troi a lot more because you can kind of see what it means for her to be half human, half Betazoid.
Yeah.
In how Luoxana uses her powers and just the dynamic. She comes back so often, and it's such an amazing character.
It's a treat every time she comes back.
And her appearances are
Absolutely.
so varied. I mean, you go from some episodes like Manhunt that are huge comedies, and then you turn into ones like Dark Page, which are serious dramas.
Yeah,
She can perform it all, and she's fantastic in every bit of it.
Yep.
yeah.
Completely agree.
I'm glad we got a taste of her in the first season.
Yeah.
I'm glad we picked this one. It's really great.
Yep.
Dave, what's next on the list?
So the next one is one of my favorites from this season, and that is Datalore. The crew of the Enterprise travel to Omicron Theta to the site where a colony has mysteriously vanished, and so happens to be where the starship Tripoli found Data. The away team uncovers the lab that belonged to Data's creator, Dr. Noonan Soong, where they find a disassembled android that turns out to be Data's brother, Lore. Lore is reactivated and, of course, quickly turns on the crew, and we find out he's working with the entity. There's so many good things about this episode, guys. Yeah. One of the biggest ones for me is Data learns to sneeze.
Yeah.
But just kidding. One of the biggest ones that we learned here is how good of an actor Brent Spiner is.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. This man can turn that switch on and off like it's nothing. Anyone who knows, he plays Lore and he plays Data in this. Yep. And he is so good at playing Data, who's good, who's, like a kid, learning, those kind of things. Then he turns that switch off and becomes Lore, who is the complete opposite of Data. Evil and just, wants to destroy everything. And, it's amazing to watch him be able to turn that on and off. And even the creators who were working on this episode were kind of concerned on how that was going to come off, if Brent Spiner was able to pull it off. Well, guess what? He pulled it off extremely well. Mm-hmm. And, we see that in later years, too, of Brent Spiner's acting coming out. And he's so good at it, guys. Yeah. And again, this episode was directed by Rob Bowman again. But yeah, this is among one of my favorites, and is the final episode written by Gene Roddenberry.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Yep.
Yeah, I totally agree about Brent Spiner's range. I mean, before I saw him here, I didn't even know who he was from Night Court. Mm-hmm. A completely different character, but from the comedy roots. Right. They've got somebody who is at this point has a lot of experience as a comedic actor playing a character that has no emotions. Yeah. And he plays that with comedic beats that are so subtle that you don't realize you're watching a comedic actor play that through. Mm-hmm. And to see him play both roles with Lore, I'm very glad they went in the direction they decided to go. I know that there were early iterations where it was supposed to be a female android that they found.
Yep.
I'm glad they didn't do that. I'm glad they let him explore this. Lore is one of my favorite characters.
Oh, yeah.
One of my favorite villains. I keep going back to the episodes with Lore whenever you have a chance. But there's so much of an aspect of discovery with this one. Not the show, but the concept of discovering something. They land on the planet and this rock face moves. They get a little bit deeper into the lab where they find where Data had come from. Mm-hmm. And there's just so much great use in this, and great moments for the Wesley character as well.
I go back to say it quite often. I've said it in other podcasts before, so if you've listened to those and I'm repeating myself, I apologize. But comedic actors are probably one of the most talented people when it comes to making that transition from comedy to drama.
You're right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because the comedy is hard, really, really hard to pull it off properly, to have that timing, Scott, that you mentioned. Mm-hmm. If you're really good at that and you can pull it off, drama seems to come to them people very easy, and they do it so well. And Brent Spiner proves that in this episode and beyond.
Yes. Yeah. And this is one of those episodes. This is one of the gems of the first season, and a really good reason why you shouldn't skip the first season. This episode's important. It's important to the series as a whole. You really need to see this one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally agree. And we'll see that, Dave, what you were talking about with comedic actors, once Guinan becomes part of it. Whoopi Goldberg. I would not have guessed in a million years that Whoopi Goldberg, where she was as a stand-up comedian, would have been on Star Trek. Yeah. But both of them, like Brent Spiner's legacy, once you get to a certain point and you get all the way through all these episodes, and you look back at the catalog of characters that he's played to great effect with enormous range. He's one of my favorite actors in this show.
I agree.
So the next one on our list is called Heart of Glory, and this time the focus is Worf. So we find that 3 Klingon warriors are found adrift on a derelict ship in the neutral zone between Federation and Romulan space, which brings a mystery to the Enterprise along with a personal test for Worf. I think in the first season, one of the things they're starting to they don't quite have their feet under them, so to speak, as far as what they want to do with certain characters. And I think that's definitely true for Worf. I think it was kind of two-dimensional in certain places, embarrassingly so in some cases, but I'm glad that the actor who plays Worf, Michael Dorn, was really happy with the outcome of this episode. And it shows that there's more depth and more interest than to just say, oh, the Klingons are now friends with the Federation. I guess they don't get into it too much as far as, what's that relationship? How did it happen? It's a while before we get the movie Undiscovered Country, one of my absolute favorites, that starts to explain that. But yeah, it's amazingly well done. And I think this is where we start to get concepts of, honor being so important to Worf and loyalty being so important. There's also an amazing escape sequence. I won't say too much, but I thought it was a very inventive use of costuming in Escape.
Gene Roddenberry, I don't know if he's the one who came up with the idea of putting a Klingon on the bridge of the Enterprise. But I think that was a unique idea because you wouldn't expect that, right? Anybody from the original series would not expect a Klingon to be a part of the crew. So I think that was a bold move, and I feel like it wasn't just a shock factor for the audience. They had a plan for him. They just didn't know right away. But Scott, what you were kind of leaning towards, they just put him on the bridge, and they did that with a few, like you said. I'm looking at you, Tasha Yar. I apologize, Denise Crosby, that they didn't have a plan for you right away. Right. But yeah, I really like that they did that, and I'm glad that they finally started finding his way. And this is the episode, you're right, Scott, that I feel like they're finally starting to get their feet under them, as you said. So, yeah.
This is the first episode that Worf really had anything to do. Many of the episodes, he was just in the background. I wasn't sure what they were planning on doing with him, or if he even really was going to be part of the main cast. I mean, I'll admit, most people know that I'm not the biggest fan of the Klingons. This isn't one of my highest regarded episodes from the first season, but I won't deny of the importance of the episode, especially to the development of the Klingons, because before this, we really didn't have any development at all. The original series didn't explore the Klingon race that much, and with the exception of Star Trek 3, which kind of touched into it, but very lightly. This is the first time we actually see the Klingons that we're familiar with today,
right?
And learn a lot about their culture. And putting Worf on the bridge was the best way to do that, because through him we can see how he reacts and how he explores his own race and his own culture.
Yep. I find it funny too that I mentioned earlier that one episode was the first time that we saw Geordi LaForge without his visor. This is the first time we get a POV from Geordi LaForge's visor.
yeah, they use that in a lot of interesting ways. Yeah, and with this one, there are scenes where we get to see from Geordi's perspective how he sees the world, how he kind of absorbs it, and we see how he sees other characters like Riker and Data. Very unique ways that he sees them, and I thought it was interesting, the scene that we're talking about, it was actually their body doubles. It wasn't actually Riker and Data, so it was interesting. We also get we kind of get 3 sides of the Klingon race with this one. You get the 3 Klingon warriors, without spoiling too much, who feel a certain way about Klingon culture and where it's going. You get the captain of a Klingon ship, who sees it in a very different way, and then you've got Worf smack dab in the middle. But there's a lot that I think I'm glad that this comes up so often in the rest of the series, that they choose to focus on Worf in this way. In some cases, he's the big cliffhanger. We'll get to that in later seasons, but I'm glad they did more with Michael Dorn. It had to be disappointing for any episode where he just looks at the script and says Worf growls.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
again,
No.
really? Can I do more than snarl? Come on, please.
Well, Tasha Yard clicks buttons on a screen,
Yeah.
They didn't know what they were going to do with some of these characters, and it shows so badly at times.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
aggravating.
There are a couple times when you hear Tasha say, like, shouldn't I go down there, sir? And it's
Yeah.
like, no, stay here and be at the console. And she's like, what the? Yeah,
Right,
Denise.
come on.
We met Denise Crosby at GalaxyCon in Columbus. An amazing talent there. We can't
Yep.
say too much, but
Right. Yeah, we can't.
wow, yeah, we'll get into that later.
Yep.
All right,
And in this episode, they did save some money too because they used some stock footage from Star Trek: The Motion
Yeah.
Picture.
right.
It worked. It worked. Yeah.
They worked.
Yeah. All right, Wayne, take us to the next one.
All right. The next one is The Arsenal of Freedom. This was written by Maurice Hurley and Robert Lelwyn and directed by Les Landau. The USS Enterprise's investigation into the disappearance of the USS Drake leads them to the planet Ninos, where the away team is trapped on the surface and the Enterprise must deal with an automated weapons system set for total destruction of all life on the planet. Now, this is an interesting episode. It falls later in the season, but this is only the second time we see the Enterprise separate.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad we didn't get to see this more. There was a very good reason why we didn't get to see this very, very much. And this will be the last time you see it until season 4, and then that'll be it until the movies.
Yep.
But here, this is something that they wanted to use a lot more. They just couldn't for logistics reasons. But we got this. It's a good episode. It's well done. We got some weird planet sets down there with just lots of plants and another one of those gel backgrounds. Yeah. But we get a lot of good character moments.
Mm-hmm.
But what I find funny is this is one of those times, and the original series did this a lot, where most of the important bridge crew beam down to the planet and get stuck there, leaving the Enterprise with the very, very inexperienced Geordi LaForge.
Yeah.
Who has to fight the others on the Enterprise, to respect him.
Yeah.
Fortunately, he does gain his respect, and we see the seeds of what will come in the series, and but here he's just a lowly lieutenant junior grade, and doing his best to keep everyone alive.
Yeah, I think was it Lieutenant Logan, I think, who was giving him the hardest time in this episode.
Yeah.
Yes, and he was the chief engineer. That's another thing about the first season is they hadn't originally planned to have an engineer set, so they never really cast a chief engineer. So every episode has a new chief engineer. I mean, I think the Enterprise went through like a dozen of them during that first season. I don't know what was going on down there, until finally, Geordi gets the position. But and I mean, Logan is kind of an asshole. That's probably why he got booted.
Yeah, he is.
Enterprise, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Get out of here, Logan. Nobody likes you, buddy.
Yeah.
This is also the episode that I'm going to butcher his name. Plays the peddler, Vincent Schiavelli, I believe.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, from like Fast Time at Ridgemont High, Ghost, Tomorrow Never Dies.
Yeah.
This dude is awesome. Every time he pops up, I love watching him.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's the highlight of the episode too. Every time he's on screen, it's fun to watch.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm glad that we get to see the side of Geordi that we get to see here, because I feel like his character wasn't used in the best ways in the first season.
Mm-hmm.
If you know him from any of the later work, you know that he's an essential part of engineering. I'm probably not spoiling that much by saying it, but until then, he's at different consoles at different stations. It's not really clear what his career path is following, and a lot of times when he's kind of telling jokes to Data, in this episode he really shines. A lot of confidence, especially for a Lieutenant JG. Like it's like having Rutherford or Boimler on the bridge.
Yeah.
And he owns it, and I think he masterfully goes through the situation in the way that he's supposed to. So I'm glad that they made better use of LeVar Burton.
Yeah, it's another idea too, where another example of where they had an idea but it didn't work. I think Roddenberry's idea, and they thought it would be funny that a blind man is steering the ship. and that's what the original intention was.
Ouch.
Exactly. That didn't work because it didn't give the character anything to do other than sit there and push buttons, and that's it. So I'm glad that they stopped that right away.
One of the things that I, you talk about all these characters finding their way finally and what they did with LaForge's character, but one of the things that I really appreciate that we're going to see over the years is the relationship between Geordi and Data. I love the relationship between those two and how it just becomes such an incredible friendship.
Yeah.
You see this android desperately trying to become human. It's like Pinocchio, the wooden boy who wants to become human so bad. It's very similar here, and Geordi really helps him along that way. I know it's kind of out of place to talk about in this episode, but I just bringing up Geordi, I just want to mention that because for those who've not seen Star Trek, you're going to see that over the 7 years of the Next Generation, of those two's friendship just blooming, and I love it so much. I always look forward to seeing that.
And think about it. Go 35 years later, season 3 of Picard, when Geordi activates Data for the first time after they thought he was dead, and he turns and sees Geordi for the first time.
Yep.
Think of the emotional impact that had on all us. Here we're going all the way back to the beginning. This is where it started. That shows exactly how incredible the characterizations and the creation of these characters through the years. I'm
not gonna lie, I teared up when that happened because I grew up with this crew. So when I got to see that many years later, I teared up.
Yeah, and it started right here.
Yeah.
Right there.
I'm glad they chose who they chose, and they got this crew. We're definitely lucky for that. Dave, what about our next one?
Well, we're going to be very careful on how we talk about this episode.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to the next episode.
Yes, move to the next one. This episode is called Skin of Evil. The Enterprise receives a distress signal from Deanna Troy's shuttlecraft, who was returning to the ship, but is discovered to have crashed on a planet. An away team beams down to find a pool of tar that turns out to be a very evil entity known as Armus. Commander Riker and crew have to find a way to reason with the creature. Deanna Troi, being held against her will, is forced to communicate with the being to learn its secret, but as we discover in this episode, the damage has been done, changing the dynamic of the Enterprise crew forever. Now, again, I know we've got to be very careful in what we talk about this. I don't want to spoil this for anyone. Because it was a shock to all of us.
Yeah.
The ending of this episode was just beautiful. Yeah. I think that is my favorite part of the entire season, in my opinion, was the ending to this episode.
I agree.
Because none of us saw it coming. And when it did happen, it was like, what? Like a shock to the system for sure. And it was handled so well. And then one of the things that's said at the end, just wow. I mean, even now, I think about what was said and I'm like, oh my God, it's just heart-wrenching.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And this goes back to we talk about the original Wayne. The sets and props of this have that original feel.
Yes, it does.
It really does, especially on the planet when with the tar and stuff like that. And Wayne, I had side conversations recently back at GalaxyCon about this episode, how I know you weren't a big fan of the tar and stuff like that.
No. I find it's a little cheesy. It's a little original series, a little bit too much original series that for my liking. You got an ancient evil, which is never really explained very much, or at least not explained to my liking.
Yeah.
And this would probably be my least favorite episode of the entire series if it wasn't for the events of later in the episode, which I can't talk about, so I can't really talk about my favorite parts. But this is another episode that you can't skip it.
No,
it's too important. You have to watch this one.
Yeah, this is vital to season 1. You cannot skip this one. Cannot.
Yeah. There's a lot of great interpersonal relationships come to the surface, and at the time that we're coming to this episode, we haven't been with this crew that much, but a lot of connective threads come out. I think it's a great use of Troy's character, who is isolated on the shuttle and has nobody else. She's sitting across from somebody who might be dead. I forget the crewmate that's in the shuttle, but surrounded by this menacing character that I think is used really well. We'll talk in a later episode about the character itself, the Armus character, at least the look and the feel, comes back in an episode with the Shellyak. and I can't watch that episode without thinking of this one. Like,
Yeah,
it's
they're
very
too
I agree,
well
man.
connected.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe in the next few episodes when we talk about the rest of Trek, we can look back on this and kind of get back into it. Well, the next one we've got, I feel like is one of the moments, aside from Skin of Evil, Conspiracy, is the next episode we're going to talk about. And this one feels to me almost like a tonal shift from where we start with The Naked Now, for example, which is a very different episode from where we end up at the end of the series. This feels like they're kind of getting into second gear and getting ready for the second season.
Ramping up.
In this one, Picard has a clan. This is also one that's very difficult to talk about without doing spoilers. But in this one, Picard has a clandestine meeting with trusted colleagues who give him a cryptic warning about a dangerous corruption growing throughout Starfleet. As the ship gets closer to revealing the threat, they may already be too late. So this is one that won an Emmy for outstanding makeup for a series.
Well earned. Yeah.
I'm going to tread lightly here with saying this one, and I tried to put this in a very specific way, but I was surprised to learn that this episode was originally intended to lead to an introduction of the Borg in the second season premiere. Apparently, due to the writer's strike in 1988, the storyline gets pushed back several months, and the subplot that we see coming to the surface in this one eventually gets abandoned, which is somewhat interesting. Partly due to budget shortages, but I know they don't make much mention of what happens here, even though it seems enormous. A very bold use of special effects, I will say, in this one. A very almost seems like a non-Star Trek use of special effects.
Yep.
But I think this one is just fascinating to me. I come back to this somewhat often, not as often as like Datalore, but it's very interesting, some of the places they start to go with this, and it feels like there's kind of a theme that we see come up in various series that's almost like maybe there are aspects of Starfleet that are not perfect. And maybe there are some things to doubt. Now this one, there's a sinister reason behind it, so it's not like it's exposing a fatal flaw in Starfleet, but it is interesting to start to go to that place and say, we're not always going to be good with authority. We're going to challenge it from time to time, which I think is used really well in this one.
It's got a great... Oh, go ahead, David. You do first.
This episode, again, not to give away too much, but this goes back to a film, Scott, you and I covered for 1986. It's about a conspiracy film, and even from a 1953 film. And I don't want. I'm not going to say any more.
Well done, Dave.
Yeah, but it really does. Wayne, sorry, go ahead.
It feels like the first part of a multi-part episode, and I'm not going to give anything away, but unfortunately, it's never returned to. It's one of those episodes, one of those plots that you keep hoping every time a new series or a new season starts with a series. Are they ever going to return to this? Are we ever going to get a conclusion or a continuation that we never have in 35 years? We're still hoping. We are still hoping because there's a lot of open ends, a lot of questions still left unanswered. And I, as Scott mentioned, this was supposed to be a multi-part episode.
Yep.
That just never came to be. I'm really surprised that they've never brought it back. Never brought the plots back. Maybe I think the best way to do it would be Lower Decks.
Yep.
That's exactly what I was going. Mine too.
Oh my God.
Get Brandon Williams on the phone. We have an idea for Lower Decks.
Yep. All right, Wayne, why don't you bring us home? What's our top 10 episode?
All right. Well, the last of the top 10 is the last episode of the first season, and it is called The Neutral Zone, written by Deborah McIntyre and Mona Clee, directed by James L. Conway. The Enterprise discovers a derelict satellite containing cryogenically frozen humans from the 20th century. 3 of the humans have survived the process, but find it difficult to adjust to the fact that 300 years have passed them by. Meanwhile, the Enterprise is sent to investigate the destruction of Federation outposts near the Neutral Zone. leading to the first confrontation with the Romulans in over 50 years. Now, Scott, you brought up the mention that conspiracy was supposed to be the first part that was going to originally lead to the Borg. This was to be the second part of that story, but unfortunately, because of the writer's strike of 1988, which had a huge impact on season 2, and we'll talk about that in the next episode, they had to completely change the storylines, and this is what came of it. And through that, though, we got the first appearance of the Romulans in the Next Generation. You know, they have been mentioned a couple of times. There's a threat that they're out there, but they haven't been seen by the Federation in it's 53 years. They just like vanished, without a trace, and no one has seen them. Very mysterious. And then here they are now investigating the same incidents that's going on, and it's a nice redesign of the Romulans. They don't look exactly like they did in the original series, specifically because the makeup designer did not want them looking like Vulcans.
Right.
And then we get their new ship, the wonderful Romulan Warbird. It's one of the most beautiful ships that was designed for Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Totally agree.
Yeah, Probert, he was the designer of the Enterprise D and of the Ferengi Marauder, two incredible ships. He was one of the best in the business for ILM, and he did a good job. It's a great episode. I don't want to spoil some of the ending to it. It is left open-ended, but this fortunately did get a continuation in the second season. So we did get to see the result of this the open-ended plot points for the end of this season. But it isn't a cliffhanger. This isn't a cliffhanger. They didn't do it like that. That comes later in the show.
And this establishes that the Next Generation takes place in 2364 for the first time too, isn't it?
That's right. You're right. Yeah.
So we can kind of put that, because I think everything from there on out in Star Trek is based off of this year, right? Like they know from then on out what year everything takes place from here on out, correct?
You're right. And they were able to set all the star dates, because some of the star dates before this are a little off. They're a little weird.
Yep.
But after this, everything is set perfectly, and you can fit every show from that point all the way to the present day shows perfectly in the timeline.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's another thing that I found very interesting. When Claire is searching for her family members of Troy, did you guys take a look at the names on the screen?
Yes, I did. Yes. I'm glad you mentioned that. I forgot about it. Yeah.
There was Gilligan's Island names were on there, and then the cast of the Next Generation crew were on there, and I think even is it MASH? I think. Was mentioned on there too. That is hysterical, man.
Oh, and you missed my favorites. Very clearly on the screen are 6 names, the names of the 6 actors who played Doctor Who at the time.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
Great. I love it when they put touches like that in shows.
And I feel like the face that we see on that view screen, is that not Roddenberry's face?
I'm not sure.
She looks up a distant relative. It's like, oh my god! If it's not, it's a dead ringer.
Yeah, I do know they used a lot of the crew members and stuff. It's very well could be one of them.
Yeah. But yeah, the Romulans are such an amazing. They're very cordial, very polite, very political menace that comes back in the series. I love the fact that whenever the ship decloaks, it kind of slithers into view.
Yeah.
And by the time it decloaks, it's so close you can see into their deck windows. Right? But it's always very polite. And I think the way that they manage those situations is so expertly done. And it gives such a great range to that species. And I'm glad that we get to see them come back.
It's only a taste of the Romulans. That's what they gave you. Just a little bite. To let you know that these are the main menace of the Next Generation now. I think because the Ferengi didn't work, the original plans, they decided to bring them back. You knew at the end of this episode that we were in for more of the Romulans. There was going to be a lot more to come, and we were looking forward to it. Boy, were you looking forward to it after this.
Yep.
And I want to give a shout out to Anthony James as Sun Commander. Is it Thay? He was in High Plains Drifter, Unforgiven. Dude has done tons of work. So definitely shout out to him because I thought he did a great job.
So that gets through our top 10. I know that we'll go low and then we'll go high. There's a dishonorable mention we have to talk about here. There's a certain episode that should technically be skipped because it is not a great episode.
Yeah.
Specifically, I think it's episode 3, Code of Honor.
Yes.
Yep.
Very tone deaf and embarrassingly racist episode that most of the crew would love to forget. If you're going to be, if you want to get the whole thing and be complete and go through, certainly do so, but just know that there are some times when we get stinkers. And if you're going through, I'm on the fence about, should you avoid it or not? I almost feel like you have to see it so that you know what happened, but it's not a high point.
Wayne made a very good point to me, and I'm going to let him talk about it. So Wayne, go ahead about that episode.
Yeah, it's not an important episode of the series, and you definitely can skip it. But it's one of the very few episodes from the first season that Denise Crosby got to do anything. It's a Tasha episode.
Yeah,
and for that, I'm not gonna say I like, as I don't. It is one of the worst episodes, but she's great in it. I mean, she really gives a phenomenal performance and shows what could have been, if she was allowed to explore her character more, which she didn't get to. And in that case, it's not my least favorite episode of the series. It's my second. My least favorite is actually the episode before that, in episode 2, The Naked Now. That episode you can skip. You can skip both of these, really.
Yeah.
Go straight, which would make your second episode Haven, which is perfect. But
True.
it's just I don't like The Naked Now. I find the visual effects are clunky. The acting is clunky too. It's very camp. It's trying to be too much like the original series.
Yes.
And the actors are kind of off character, and it's too early in the series for everyone to be trying to play drunk.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work. It's a cringe-worthy episode. So if you don't have all the time to watch 26 episodes, 26 hours, there's 2 hours right there you can skip.
Yep. Well, getting back into something positive, as Boimler says, let's talk about Riker. Wayne, you got a favorite Riker moment from season 1?
Yes, I do. You brought it up a little bit earlier. I like Riker's performance, his characterization in Hide and Q. He's presented with an impossible decision. He's got the powers. He's omnipotent. He's got the powers of Q. He can do anything. He can bring back the dead, which he does. He brings back Worf and Wesley. He can do anything. He can give Worf girlfriends, and he could save and stop war, everything. But he has to make the moral decision, and I love Jonathan Frakes' performance in this episode. It's a Riker episode. Yeah. And it gives Riker one of the few times in the series, or it might be the only time, where he really gets to interact with Q. Because before that, or after this, it's Patrick Stewart and John Delancey all the way. But here it is. We've got Jonathan Frakes and John Delancey, and they do a phenomenal job. This is my choice.
Good choice.
All right, Dave. What about you? What's your favorite Riker moment?
So mine actually comes at the encounter at Farpoint at the beginning of the series. So it's more like a Picard Riker moment. When they first meet on the ship, Riker is beamed on board. Tasha Yar takes him to the battle bridge. And, he basically, automatically says, well, something must have happened because the saucer section was missing. And, he walks onto the battle bridge, and Picard really gives him this, cold shoulder. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
he comes up and, and then Picard tells him, we're going to let you review something, and never looks back at him, just keeps looking forward. And then, Yar takes him over and sits him down, and he watches the screen, basically watches the episode with us, what we've already seen, which was really weird in itself, but that's besides the point. And of course, when it was over, he looks, he calls that a little adventure? And then, after all of that, is asked to manually dock the saucer section. Talk about being put to test right away by your captain. There you go, right there. Welcome aboard, sir. Welcome aboard.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, we see that kind of reminds me of was it Wrath of Khan? when Kirstie Alley's character is asked to, pilot manually, there's always kind of that little test that kind of comes up a lot. Yeah, it's tricky. Like, don't break it. We just got it. No pressure. Sure, that's fine. For me, there's a bit of quick thinking on Arsenal of Freedom, where you see kind of the cleverness of Riker come out when he talks about the good ship Lollipop. And I won't say too much without spoiling because it's an interesting twist. But getting to see him develop a little bit more into kind of his tactical mind start to kind of come out. I think that comes out a lot more when the beard comes back. So we'll look forward to that in the next season. Well, as always, thank you guys for joining me on this one. I love talking Trek with you.
Amen, man. Pleasure.
Trips to the cons and all this other kind of stuff where Jeff is just like, I don't know this yet, but he'll get there. Just check out the curated list.
You'll get there.
Exactly. If you have a chance, go through our list. Even if you don't have a chance to catch them all, that's fine. This is just a little taste, kind of a map to get through some of these seasons, and then you can just explore as much as you want to. As always, thanks, listeners, for joining us for these adventures, for these discussions. Hailing frequencies are always open for you to share your thoughts and your questions on social. We're on all the favorite platforms there. Email us at afilmbypodcast@gmail.com. Find us online at afilmbypodcast.com. And if you're looking for more exclusive content, possibly some swag if you see it at CityCon, send us some Latinum our way through the Patreon, and we'll get you on our list. The next few episodes, we'll talk about Season 2 in a top 10 and explore what else there is to do.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Wayne.
Thanks.
Thank you.